everyone. I'm Jesse. I'm running LoveCry.
And I'm Anthony, volunteering with LoveCry. And I know it's not Halloween, but I want to talk about ghosting. so, and I think that ghosting is one of these behaviors that sometimes people might be doing it consciously, and sometimes people might be doing it unconsciously. So ghosting is when someone is like, you think you've built up a level of communication, and then they're like, phew, they're gonzo. So you don't know if they're still alive, where they are, what's going on. And then you mentioned, it leaves the person who's been ghosted, it leaves them wondering, did I do something wrong? What did I do wrong? I'm not good enough. And we all have those potentials within us, right? So we want to deal with people that are going to build you up and not tear you down. Criticism is awesome and it's important, as long as it's coming from a place of love, right? So if you have a friend who loves you and they're like, I think this is something you're doing wrong, or I think you're pointing in the wrong direction, or I think this could be better, that's one thing. But if you have someone like tearing you down on purpose, I'll give you an example of conscious ghosting. So a friend of mine, he has a friend. So this friend of mine is actually a pretty decent guy. So he's talking about this friend of his who has this pretty disgusting behavior, frankly, where he'll court a woman, he'll say whatever. He even told me about an instance. So I guess his friend is sharing this shit with him, that he was on the phone with this woman before they had sex, okay? And he's like, he like brought himself to tears a little bit, saying, I've never felt like this about anyone. And it's all consciously an act. He wants to get laid. He wants to get a piece of tail. And he's doing it fraudulently. So this is completely conscious. So once he gets what he wants, he gets sex, he's gonzo, and he's on to the next one. So it's catch and release, catch and release, catch and release. It's the thrill of the chase. I think it's a malignant behavior, but that's conscious ghosting.
And most of the time it is conscious too. They're just refusing to look at the thoughts. So they know they're doing something wrong. It's just if you ignore it, you don't have to feel it. And then so it's even a worst aspect of ghosting in a sense, because now you're pretending you're not even doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
like the person will convince themselves, well, like I just feel differently. I just feel different.
Yeah, exactly.
Another example of ghosting is, a good friend of mine. I mean, her and I dated like more than a decade ago, and we've maintained a great friendship. So she was talking with this guy, and what he did with her was love bombing. Like he would talk to her every day. He would see her very often. They would spend so much time together. He's so into her. And then after several months, I think it was 4 to 6 months, he was gonzo. Like ghosting, no response, no nothing. At best, it might be like, oh, I'm fine, but I had to go or whatever, but he didn't even do that. So it creates a massive power imbalance because we have one person, and as you were saying earlier, the ghoster feels powerful now. Like, I'm in control of this. I cut it off. I chose this, right? And the other person's like, what the fuck, right?
Did he ever tell you why he was doing it? Like, did he ever...
Oh, you mean like the friend of a friend who tells women anything to have sex?
Yeah.
Oh, why?
Yeah, did he ever
no, I'd like to actually interview this bastard. I've never met him, but I would love to talk to this guy and just ask him some questions. Like, yeah, part of me wants to smack him out, but part of me wants to ask him some pointed questions. Like, what are you getting out of this? What is there a void inside you that you're filling in this way?
Yeah, it's always filled. Like there's always some sort of abuse or trauma or some kind of linkage to why someone acts that way. Something they're missing, something they never got. It's always stems from pain. So whenever we hear people acting like this to like want to hurt them, right? Like that's how we naturally feel as human beings. But
and I don't even have a daughter, man. If I had a daughter, I'd want to like choke this guy, like just snap him.
Yeah, and I have 3 daughters.
Yeah, so it's scary to know that there's men doing this kind of shit out there, and there's women doing this kind of shit too. Trust me.
Yeah, I would say I don't even know. I guess I was gonna say women probably do it more than men, but I couldn't even.
It's just bad behavior. Both sexes are doing it.
It's part of the sex game in a sense, because you lead someone on, you make them believe something, you cut them off. You feel stronger. They're hurting, wondering what happened, what they did wrong, because you won't ever tell them the truth of what you actually really feel. So they're constantly lost in thought, trying to figure it out, and it's really harmful to the person who has been cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's left with no resolution, no resolve, it leaves you kind of spinning in your head until you could cut that energy. until you could separate yourself from that person, because they tell you all these nice things, and they remember stuff about you. They talk about things you're wearing and things that you like. They really know how to manipulate you to believe that they care about you. And that's the scariest part, is that's why you need to know yourself, through other talks that we've had about self-love, because those things are very important when you're dealing with people in these aspects. Because when you know yourself, when people are doing this, you feel it. You know your intuition. But then we tell ourselves something else because we don't want that to be true, because we want this to be what we want. Do you know what I mean? We want this to be true, that this person loves us, that this is, this is what we desire.
Like this Prince Charming who's, appeared in our life, or this, lady, whoever who appears in our life. We like that image that they've presented to us, and we want to believe it. Yeah. You mentioned, we might not want to think something bad of another person. So it's not to say that person's bad. I mean, no one's 100% bad. You're offering that a lot of people that do stupid shit and harmful stuff, they're doing it from a place of hurt that they haven't realized, and then they're externalizing this work. And that's why it's so important to do work with yourself. I just had some group therapy that finished a few days back, and it was awesome. I haven't done it for 20 years. I did some one-on-one therapy. You can meet someone who's a mentor. It doesn't have to be a paid therapy. Paid therapy is not always good. So, I think a friend who cares about you, or a family member who cares about you, loves you, can help you more than any therapist. So it doesn't have to be a therapist. But I'm just a big fan. I've found some very caring therapists to work with, and it's been amazing. But it's so important to do our work, and it's so important to look at yourself. And Jesse said to know yourself. So when you know yourself better, you're more integrated with yourself. When someone's love bombing you, you're going to see through it. Not maybe 100% see through it, but you're like, something is off here. Something is off.
You'll know that the love isn't real. There's a real love, and then there's this fictitious love that our ego loves to create to make ourselves feel better, even though it's what makes us create pain for ourselves. So that's another aspect of it.
So you're saying you're contrasting two different kinds of love. So you're contrasting
there's ego love, and then a real love. That the ego just wants to be known as great, good, all these things, and the real love knows that we're half good and half bad.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, I'm the greatest. Oh, look at me. You're like, buddy, like, what are you doing?
So the ego love is like, this woman looks good on my arm. She strokes my ego, I stroke her ego. Like it's all like this kind of grocery list that we fill out for each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not like, do I really know this person? Have we delved into our negatives? Exactly. And you got to do it in yourself before you can do it in a relationship with someone else. And everyone's got those negatives, and rather than sweep it under the carpet and then hurt everyone else with those hidden negatives, like, bring them out in yourself, examine yourself.
Yeah, because the negative isn't something bad about you. It's something that will enhance your well-being, because the negative side is there for a reason. We only call it negative because we're using it wrong. It is actually positive things to protect ourselves and to look out for ourselves and to be with ourselves. It's not... Sorry.
No, I get that. So if we have jealousy, guardedness, we want to position ourselves in a good place. Like, these are things that can be done in a negative way, but it's really just your ego trying to do the best for you.
Yeah.
Right. So and it can come out in negative ways. And these are things that we can usually does. So we can parent ourselves and say, okay, that's cool. I get it that you want this person to love you back. I get it. Great. But, do we want to manipulate them into loving us back? Because if you're manipulating someone into loving you back, then you're going on a level of unreality, and you're building a tower on a weird foundation that's going to fall.
And then once you get it, what do you do? You're like, well, now what am I? Because you've already attained this goal. So now what? Now you're going to start like,
now I need to ghost this and go for the next goal.
Exactly. Right. You start finding something wrong with it, judging it, putting it down, because you don't want to see that side of things. Everyone doesn't want to see the negative. So we always, when it gets too close, we are like, nope, this isn't perfect. I have to have it set up the way I want it.
Or it gets too deep, and they don't want to see deep within themselves. So this relationship is getting too deep, And it's like, no, I just want to keep it on the surface, so I'm going to ghost, right? And then they get the power surge out of it.
Because they don't want to be hurt. Mm-hmm. So they hurt others before they could hurt them. It's just a cycle, and it's not really beneficial because like you're doing it out of response, out of reactiveness instead of out of love and care. And that ghosting doesn't help anyone. It doesn't make you feel better. You think it does because you took someone else's power, you took someone else's energy to feel better. And it doesn't last because you can't keep that energy. It's not yours.
It's not yours.
You stole it.
It's stolen.
You know, like it's really stolen, and you steal it by making them feel bad about themselves for what you think. You know, so it's something you really need to take an action and look at, because in society we're kind of being desensitized to it. Like, whatever, let's just move on to the next person if they don't like me. You know, like, and we're just constantly re-hurting each other. I couldn't think of the term, but we're constantly
re-traumatizing each other.
Yes. Yeah. You know, and then we're just like, oh well, whatever. If I didn't do it, I would have got hurt. You know what I mean? And it just becomes that dog eat dog, and then no one ever heals or gets better. We all just talk this game and try to create this image, and then when that shatters, we have to ghost, we have to run away, we leave town. We're so ashamed. And then we just revisit it and keep coming back to the same ideas, the same thoughts. And we never blame the self. We blame the others. We ghost. And then we feel strong. They're the problem. If they would have done this right, if they were like this, it's like, it's this constant projection.
Projection versus doing inner work or looking inside. So it's projecting.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're constantly giving your negative out there because you're just, I say all these nice things. I say, oh, you're great, you're the special, you're the best, you're my best friend. You did all this for me. I'll never do anything against you. And then when your best friend or your friend believes that, or your partner believes that, then you're like, oh, well, I don't need to convince them anymore. I don't like me. How do you like me? This is ridiculous. I got to get out of here.
And then it becomes discordant because it's not jiving with their own inner belief about themselves, right? And how do you improve your self-esteem? Is by going in there and admitting faults, looking at them. Where does this come from? And that helps you to build your self-esteem because you're not trying to hide negative stuff and convince yourself in a grandiose, egotistical way, but you're looking deep inside yourself. I value myself enough to accept my negatives, to look at my negatives and see the positive motivations that led to these negatives. And
because I did the same thing in my first relationship. I wanted to believe all these things, that she wasn't cheating on me, that she cared, that she wasn't like actually going out against me to hurt me on purpose. Like, I was being told all these things, but I refused to believe it. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to, she's a good person. She's nice. She did these things for me. Like, this is what, and then they're just constantly hurting you. You're like, you don't understand where all this pain's coming from because you think they love you. Mm-hmm. And it was harmful. And because I wouldn't look at it as, I need to love, I need to care. It was, I'm not deserving of love, like, I need to prove myself. What am I doing wrong? What do I, what have I done to deserve this? And you're constantly trying to find it. And mine was from a severely abusive relationship. And I was broken. Like, I don't know, like, I couldn't even, work. Like, my brain was just, who cared? Life didn't matter. And that's because of the pain she put inside of me, on top of my own pain and my own feelings. She just left me like I was a piece of trash. And with my daughter, there was a whole story, but that when I started to love myself, that pain started to alleviate. And then I wasn't so rejective of people that seemed similar. I was able to take it in and process rather than be reactive. This is the same, because I used to do that a lot, especially with even my partner I've been with for, like, what is it now? She's 17
She's going to be mad.
Yeah, I know. I said that right. I would have push her away. She stood through a lot of the problems I was going through because she saw why, and I was sharing and talking. But I kind of lost my point.
Um, I mean,
Sorry.
the point I'm getting from that is just, being yourself within a relationship and not trying to portray yourself as a knight in shining armor or a perfect
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. And then you also don't put yourself like, so people have hurt you. And now you have this idea of what people do to hurt you. And so they do something that seems similar and you automatically,
Oh, it almost brings up a paranoia.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we haven't processed that hurt. So anything that reminds us, whether it's true or not, of that, we start going on like attack mode or like
super defensive. Like get the hell,
mode.
like it's just like almost like rage. Like get away. This is like a no trespassing zone. Instead, you process it, and then you could see whether or not it's reliable. Like is this really what's happening to you because of this, this, and this, or are you just thinking this? Because what's leading to those thoughts? It's a whole process to get there. So.
No, and someone listening to this might say, well, this was in your earlier days and now you've done therapy and you've done self-examination and like you're never immune to these issues, right? So we, work on ourselves is an ongoing thing, So someone might be listening to this and say, okay, I've ghosted someone before and maybe I should do some work on myself, but we all need to. Everybody. So if you've been ghosted, we also need to examine ourselves. Like, what is it inside me that manifested this into my life? Why am I hurting so much now? Why am I having all these self-doubts? That comes within, and that really catalyzed me to get back into different forms of therapy. Was being dumped, so no one's immune, and I've done quite a bit of therapy, but I'm never going to be done.
And no matter
therapy in general, right? Like, but you just progress.
Yeah, sorry. No matter what you do, there's nothing that's too shameful. Like society will deem horrible, but that shame keeps you there. You know what I mean? We've made mistakes. We all have made mistakes. From like the rich to the poor, everyone's made mistakes.
So that shame can get in the way of us looking inside ourselves because we're like, there's shame there, so my ego's not even going to let me look at it.
Yeah, I don't like that feeling.
So that's self-love, where you're just accepting parts of yourself that might seem shameful or dirty or like bad or inadequate or loser, anything like that. But to give an example of no one's immune, this guy, I know the guy very well, like more than 10 years. He's done all kinds of work on himself. He met this woman, and classical case of love bombing, just a classical case. So they met, they become real fast friends. Things got really intimate really fast. And she's like, you're the kind of man, these are the kinds of things she said to him. You're the kind of man that I want to have his babies, and how special they were, how amazing they were. They had sex all day long. They hung out every day. And she was like, pew! It was like just a few weeks. She was gone. Basically nothing in the way of what you were saying, of, what do you call it when you end something, resolution, communication, closure. Yeah. But if she offered all of that, then she wouldn't have had all this power from him, because he's like, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. And this guy shared with me, he was suicidal. He was literally suicidal. And this is a guy who's got a great career, done a ton of work on himself. So no one's immune, right? But it's about being present and aware. If he was very present and aware in that moment, he would have felt something was off. Something is off with this relationship. Something is off here. Something's not adding up, right? So and sometimes it can be a subtle feeling inside yourself where you feel something's off. I've had that, and I ignore it because, like Jesse said, you want to believe that this person is all the great person, that you put them up on this pedestal and your relationship is so special, and you don't want to doubt that. But you've got this feeling inside you which is saying, like, excuse me, knock, knock, and we're ignoring it at our own peril.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because if that voice is knocking to tell you something, even like a conversation I've had with people, they even say that like intuitively that they were like feeling that they shouldn't be part of this. But the ego part, when they're saying all these nice things and things, it's like, okay, well, let's try that. Okay, well, let me see. But that's just the sex game. They're getting into your head to bypass what you really feel. So they're stroking
the ego, to seduce the person.
Yeah, it's like pulling your heartstrings.
Yeah, like, oh, you're so, like saying you're the kind of man that I want to have your child. Like, that's a huge thing to say to a guy. But she didn't mean it. She hardly knew him. How well are you going to know someone after 2 weeks? I don't care how many times a day they were boinking. Like,
Yeah,
you can't know someone well in 2 weeks. As Jesse said, you have to see some of their negatives. You have to see, can I communicate with this person? Can I ask them questions like, what are some of your challenges that you faced in your life? What are some of your traumas?
The negative is the key. The negative is the key to any relationship, any like friendship, anything in the world. The negative is the key, because once you could face that negative, then all there's left is positive. Like that negative is there in a sense, but it's like I don't even know how to say it. It's like enlightened. It just feels.
Yeah, you're enlightened. You're shedding light on something that was dark, right? And sharing is part of what makes a relationship work. And I'll just give, maybe it might seem like a trivial example, but it had meaning for me when you shared with me, like, oh, Anthony, sometimes I feel like you'd want to make these videos, or you were having negative thoughts about the videos. Like, did I want to do it? Was I cool with doing them with you? Did I want to do them? So I was glad that you shared that, because I wouldn't want you to carry that around under the carpet. And then there would be some kind of weirdness between us, as much as we're like, hey, we're positive. Yeah. But like you shared, you just had this thought. So you shared it with me to check in with me. Like, where's this coming from? I had this feeling inside me, but is it just me, or am I picking up something from you? Right. Yeah. And then we clarified that. So that brought me to just knowing you better and feeling like, we're transparent, as much as two humans can be, and that's when you care about someone, you're going to share the bad stuff. But, you've already developed with me that sense of like, I know you care about me. I hope I care about you. So that's the base that we're sharing stuff with, right? So you're not sharing like, hey, Anthony, I think you're being an asshole because of this feeling of mine. You're like, you're saying, I'm having this feeling, let's talk about it. Like, what's happening on your end? And then you saw that it was like another person's influence. It was kind of like coming.
Yeah, it was just a situation that I was going through. It was hard, and so that triggers my own mental health, because I have my own problems. So it makes me,
do we all?
So it starts to make me doubt, and then start to think bad about something, and then I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it, processing. I'm like, so then I had to say it, because otherwise it's going to make me feel down and bad and create a barrier in the relationship. And so I said it to him, even though I felt weird about it, because like, what if this person doesn't take it?
It's not easy, right? Yeah. It's not, and it's a risk, because you risk the other person saying like, oh, I feel attacked, or you're being negative. Oh, why are you being negative?
Right. Exactly. Because then that means that other person is negative towards you. Because if you're coming to them and saying, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking, and they're like, oh, that's this or that's that, it's like, then they're not really.
And they're crapping on you.
Then they're taking your energy. They're stealing your energy. They're not there for you. They're there for you in a sense to get your energy.
I mean, you can always, if you're not sure what you're walking into, you can always preface things by saying, our friendship or our relationship or whatever it is important to me, and that's why I want to have this feeling. I want to honor it and discuss it with you, because I just want to see, is it me? Is it you? Is it something like?
And another good thing before that too is what my mentor said: is pray before.
Oh yeah.
Pray for the right things to say. Pray for it. And she said, like, sometimes she wouldn't even know what she was saying. She would just say it, and it would be what was necessary for that moment. But she really believed in God. Like, she really believed in this higher power, and I think that is really true. But you have to have that deep faith as well. But yeah, that's what she told me.
Like, we all have a soul, and we have this ego, and we want, it's a partnership, and like any partnership, there's going to be problems. Any partnership, there will be problems. But we are a partnership between an ego and a soul. And so what your thought brought up for me is, this woman shared something with me like 25 years ago that's clear as a bell. She's like, when I'm going to have a meeting with someone, an important meeting, whether it's like, I have this important topic I want to discuss with my wife, I have an important topic I want to discuss with my boyfriend, you tune into your higher self and say, may my higher self speak to their higher self. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and you have that prayer, if you will, before your meeting or before you're bringing up this difficult topic, like, may our higher selves, communicate with each other, and not just like egoic, like, oh, now I feel threatened and I'm going to threaten you back and I'm going to hurt you back. And it's not bad. I mean, your ego is trying to protect you. It's not bad for the ego to try to protect you, because that's part of its job, for you to survive. But it can also get in the way. And like any other partnership, we have to communicate between the two, and there needs to be a lovingness within yourself. Like, okay, I get it, ego. You want me to take advantage of, like I had a girlfriend who lied to me so much, and I thought to myself, well, I could literally just date women now and lie to them just the same way I've been lied to, right? That came up, and that's okay if that came up. What's not okay is if I acted on it, right? But then my higher self said, well, wait a minute. How did you feel in this? You don't want to make anyone else feel like that. So that was the road that I took. But not to say that I always tell the truth 100% of the time. I'm a perfect human being. Like, I'm an angel. I just dropped down here to do these interviews. But that's where I'm aiming, right? That we all have to have something that we're aiming at. And we're going to fall short constantly. But have something that you're aiming at.
And then, like, when you're saying that soul and the ego, I think there's there's a jealousy that happens there at first, because the ego is being played to. You're so cute, you're the best, you're amazing, that's what you do with your kids and children. But the soul is kind of there saying, hey, don't forget about me, hey, look at this. And they're like, well, why are you trying to make me feel bad? Like, you're just jealous, you just want what I have, you're just trying to get my attention away from me. And then it creates that inner battle. And that's where it has to come into play and work with it, because that jealousy needs to be understood, that you're each trying to help each other. You need each other, not I'm better than you're better. The good is good, but that is also good. The soul and the ego are needed.
We have to integrate.
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have them.
If you're in a body, you have a soul and an ego. If you're not in a body, I don't know. We won't talk about that yet. I'm not dead yet, so I can't talk about it. But, I met this guy that said, and he talked about Jesus, and he's like, I'm going to put my ego on the cross and nail it to the cross. That's really harmful and dangerous, because he might convince himself he's doing that, but the ego is right there. Like, it's not like you can't scrape off half your body and then you're good, right? Then you're just going to be dead.
You can't take your shadow off.
Yeah, you can't take off your shadow. Exactly. So it's about healing and communication between the ego and the soul.
Yeah, and the ghosting part is you really need to be wary of it. Like, I understand that it feels nice to be told all these things and have that, but it also feels nice to be cared about. It also feels nice to have people there for you when you need them.
And real acceptance,
yes,
which is not fawning. There's a difference between fawning and actual acceptance. And so don't fall for fawning. Like, when that person is trying to build something up, it's not like they're being malevolent, but just, if you have that little voice inside yourself, this is too much too soon, listen to it. I say easy come, easy go. So things need to build up in an organic way. If it's like the third day and someone's saying they want to have your babies, there's something wrong. Like, something isn't right in that process. So you need to slow down the process. And, it takes me back to that point I made in other videos of, like, don't have sex right away, because it's a real big intimacy step from a soul level and a physical level. So it can cloud your judgment, right? Because once you're sexing someone, then they've got potentially more control on you. Yeah, intermingling.
Yeah, like, you have sex, this is your energies.
Yeah.
And now whose is whose. And this person's lying and telling things, and you're just like, so you're stuck in this spiral because you've had that intercourse with someone who's judging you, putting you down, doesn't think highly of you, but will say these things to your face. And that's where that confusion comes into play. So that sex is almost like an energy grab. It's like, now I own you. And especially when they do those things, it shows that it's about ownership. It's not about love.
It's about taking.
Yeah.
It's about taking. Yeah. Energetically, not just physically.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess.
So there's our little primer on ghosting.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I mean, life has a lot of pain in it. And like I say, we want to be like, if you're in the boxing ring, you want to be in the boxing ring with your eyes open. You don't want to be blindfolded and then put in a boxing ring against an opponent. So that's what I'm hoping that these talks are doing. And even as I'm doing these talks with you, things get clarified within myself as we talk about it. And I just want to say you've been an incredible influence and teacher for me. And hopefully I've been a good teacher for you in how to do squats off a bench. And if you guys have questions, comments, we'd love to address them. any question, anything that comes up for you, like, oh, I'd like, to see what Jesse's got to say about whatever, put it in a comment.
And even if you guys want to do like even like a Zoom call or some shit like that, like that's doable too. We could always set something up like that. If you just have any further questions or just to see who we are or anything. So
great.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.